I'm back from my suspension. I was only suspended for 12 hours, which is not like a serious like problem because most of those hours were spent of me sleeping anyway. So, and in those hours that I was suspended, I ended up watching a lot of videos that I usually enjoy and I haven't really been able to watch. So, if anything, thanks Twitter. I watch a lot of puppy videos. They're great. If you guys don't watch like cute puppy videos, you guys have to be serial killers. Like seriously. Like I love dogs so much. I just want to be around them. I want to watch them play like all day. They're the best things in the world. Um, I know that some of you are looking at me right now and going, I'm gonna click off the video. I'm sorry. Like London is one of those places where the weather changes every 5 minutes. Like it's insane. And the weather changes so quickly that my body can't recalibrate, so my skin is like breaking out in all kinds of weird ways, and it's the fucking worst. I hate it. And it's also getting warmer, which doesn't bode too well for my skin. I am a winter baby. I'm born in February. I don't have good skin for summer. Also, I don't really wear summer clothes because I used to cover my entire body with a black cloth. So I need to look for summer clothes that are appropriate now. And I don't know what is appropriate for where I work, for when I go out with friends. I don't know how to dress. I like t-shirts, I like long sleeve shirts, I like trousers, I like shorts. I've discovered I like shorts. I never used to like shorts because haram. But I really enjoy shorts now. I don't really understand skirts and how people wear them. I'm a very tactile, very quick, very I'm just gonna do my shit kind of person, and I don't know how to behave in like a short dress or a short skirt. So I'm struggling with that. Um, Also, I had like a lot of really interesting conversations today, and I would like to do like a DNA test and figure out where I'm from because currently my party trick is to ask people to guess where I am from because they cannot figure it out. And for those of you who don't know, feel free to guess in the comments below. And I mean, I can't really give you a prize, but I'm sure it's like a fun thing for you guys to do. If you want to. If you want to. I mean, I respond to all of my comments. I get like 5 anyway. Um, but yeah, it's become my party trick to just allow people to guess where I am from because I do not look like where I am from. I look like such a mishmash of things. Like people have told me that I look like I'm from like Mexico or Southern America or Somalia is the wildest one I've gotten, and maybe that's because I used to hang out with the Somali community a lot. I still do, kind of. And I've gotten when I was younger and my skin was like a lot lighter, it was a lot paler. I used to get, oh, you're from China, you're from Japan, you're from Taiwan, and now I'm getting more, you're from the Philippines, you're from, um, what is it, Malaysia, you're from Indonesia. I've gotten Pakistan a few times, but not commonly, but that is the closest place that anyone has guessed. Um, but feel free to guess in the comments below if you want to. Pause, whatever. I don't think it's going to come up, and it might do actually. It might come up in this video. So pause and leave a comment, and I will uh, dazzle you, and you'll figure it out later in the video. But today, after my I'll give you an update on my suspension. So Twitter suspended me for 12 hours because I responded to a tweet or a bunch of tweets who in response to a guy who constantly was abusing my mother who is dead. She's in the ground. She's been dead for 5 years. And he did that, and I don't want to say I lost my shit because I've had look, I'm someone who has defied God in one of one of the most insane ways because I was a devout follower of a religion of God. I'm someone who has rejected that, who has essentially spat in the face of an imaginary person or demon or whatever you want to call them. But to a lot of people, I've spat in the face of God. I've been rejected by my family. My family have verbally, physically, and psychologically abused me. There is nothing in this world that a stranger can say to me that will ever affect me more than those things. I have had, like, children whom I raised, who I considered my own children, taken away from me. There is nothing in this world that you can say to me that will trigger me, in a sense. I've become very thick-skinned, so I didn't really lose my cool, but I enjoy being petty. I'm sorry if that is weird, and I'm sorry if you don't appreciate that. Feel free to unsubscribe, feel free to unfollow. You know, if you don't like my content, please don't feel the need to stay following me. I don't want to subject you to things that you don't like, honestly. But I enjoy being petty. I think that being a bigger person is very overrated in most circumstances. And every time I've been the bigger person in arguments that I've had or altercations that have come my way, I've always felt like there were so many things that I could have said and felt better about. You know, your mental health is not worth wasting on people who don't want to take you seriously to begin with, so why not, you know, have some fucking fun, in my opinion. Just take life not that seriously. We're all gonna die one day. Just live your life to the happiest that you can live it, and do things in this world so that people who come after you will find a better world. That is my entire life. That is what I want my entire life to be. I have no goals that I will hold myself to and have regrets at the end of my life. I am determined to have no regrets at the end of my life. And that is my only true goal. Take that for what you will. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I will return to the topic that I wanted to talk about today. So I wanted to talk about arranged marriages, and this was suggested by one of my followers who I see personally as like a little sister. Her name is Norma Jean. Please feel free to follow her. I might leave her her Twitter name in the video at some point. I'm not very good at editing, so I'm sorry, Norma, in advance. But I wanted to talk about it because she suggested it, and I feel like she comes from a Muslim family, and she's seeing this either in her future or she's like come across it already. And I would like to share my experience to help those people who maybe go through this and don't really know either how to deal with it or just want to find a story to relate to. And this isn't really like a commentary on Islam. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Islam well, not only allows, but it's the only real way you can have sex is by getting an arranged marriage and being married. How arranged marriages work in Islam is pretty simple. The guy asks for a girl, the girl has to say yes, you can't force her. But we'll get into that. You can't force her, technically, but a virgin's silence is considered as acceptance, which is terrifying. You have to get, for a woman who is a virgin and has never been married before, you have to get the permission of her mahram or her father, brother, whoever's the closest like male relative. And if she doesn't have any, then you get the permission of like a religious leader or whatever. And there have to be 2 witnesses for that marriage to be signed. You also can't joke about marriage. So if you and your cousin, because in Islam you can get married to your cousin, if you and your cousin are like joking around and say you want to get married and you both agree and there are 2 witnesses and a mahram who, you know, isn't going to deny it, you guys are married. You can't joke about marriage in Islam. That's as much as I can tell you. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them. I don't tend to evidence my work because you have the internet, so why would I need to give you evidence? At the end of the day, everybody has their bias. If you don't believe in that, you don't believe in that. If you do, you do. If you don't know, feel free to research it at length. I'm not here to change anyone's mind. I'm not here to steal your religion. I'm here to share my experience and possibly show different ways of living in the circumstances that I lived in. Now, in terms of me, okay, a podcast is coming out this week, or so I've been told, by Out of the Fold podcast. Again, I'll leave their Twitter in the video. His Twitter in the video, sorry. A podcast is coming out by Out of the Fold, and it's gonna have my entire life story in there, as much as I could tell it in about 3 hours. I'm sorry, you should have been prepared for that. But I go over a couple of similar things about marriage and how from a young age I was very obsessed with getting married. And the reason for that is that my mother, whom I love very much and I, have recently grieved for and, have been defending virulently on Twitter for the last few days and have gotten suspended for. My mother made marriage seem like the ultimate goal. And not just my mother, but all the women in my extended family. For them, getting married was the goal for a girl. You cannot do anything independently until you get married. So anything I ever wanted that my mum didn't want. So when I was younger and I was a very little girl, I was like 4 or 5 years old, I would always ask my mum, can we get a pony? Can we get a dog? Can we get a cat? Can we get some kind of pet? And I've never really had pets. We had fish for a little bit, but they all died because my dad cleaned their tank with bleach. But I would ask these things, and I would also be like, oh, I don't want to eat this, I want to eat something else, or I want to wear these kind of clothes. But my mum would always be like, you can get a pony when you get married, you can have a dog when you get married, you can, well, she never used to say that, dogs aren't allowed, dogs are haram, but you can have a cat when you're married. If your husband's hunting or he needs security in his house, you can get a dog when you're married. Well, that's the only reason you can have dogs in Islam. If you want to wear jeans, my mum hated jeans. If you want to wear jeans, you can wear them when you get married and you live in your husband's house. If you want to make different kinds of food, my mum would only cook Indian food. If you want different kinds of food, if you want to eat pasta or pizza, and towards the end of her life, she did end up making that stuff because it's just way easier. But at the beginning, when I was a little girl, she would just be like, you can do all that stuff when you get married. So marriage was like this gateway to freedom for me. So ever since I was young, and I also went to a Muslim school, so I thought everybody thought like this. So I went to a Muslim school, and I would tell them quite openly, being like 11, 12 years old, in year 7, which I don't know what that is for Americans, but it's like a junior high school, like the first year of junior high school, where you're just like, I desperately want to get married, because I just want to do all these things that I'm not allowed to do. And my friends would look at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But that's how marriage was set up for me. That's what I thought marriage was. Marriage was just this beautiful life that you have with like another person, and you can do whatever you want. I now understand that that's not how marriage works, and I've cleaned up. But I had a few like classmates. I never really had strong friends in junior high school, and the reason for that is because I was clearly the weird kid. I was the weird religious kid that was just waiting to get married. But I had classmates in my school who were just like, are you sure you like want to get married when you're like 11, you're like our age, like why would you want to get married? And I would tell them all these things, and they're like, oh, but you know you're gonna have a husband and he's gonna want stuff too, and not want stuff and all that. And that like sort of calmed me down. I was like, okay, I'll wait, because in the UK you can't get married until you're 16 anyway. But aside from that, I never had any interest in boys. I do now. I'm a straight, bi-curious woman. But when I was younger, I never had any interest in boys, and I went to a girls' school, so it wasn't like a huge distractor. I did have a few like rogue weeks where in year 8 or like second year of junior high school, I don't want to keep junior middle school, sorry, I don't want to keep doing that, but like when I was very young, when I was like 12, 13, I had a few weeks in school where there were like these guys from a Catholic school nearby. There was like a lot of schools in that area from a Catholic school nearby where we would like check them out and say that, oh, this one's really cute, that one's really cute. That all stopped after I like became very religious. And also I had read up on like when you can get married. You can get married in Islam. I've always been taught, there are differences of opinion now, but I've always been taught that you can get married as soon as you're mature, you have your period. And that strikes a lot of questions, but I'm not going to get into that because I've heard every argument from that side. I've argued on that side, and I'm arguing against that side, and honestly, it's very tiring. But that's what I was taught, was that you can get married as soon as you're mature, and you know, you have consent at that age, which you really don't. Like, girls mature when they're like 11, 12 years old. Some mature at 9. I have a cousin who matured at 9. But yeah, so I sort of like took that out of my system. I would still argue the point that it's better to get married when you're young, because in a Muslim environment you don't really have the freedom to date or have a boyfriend or, you know, really look into people. And for me, I had a very primitive understanding of men. I thought men were just these things that looked at how good you look and you would just get on with them. That was it. And that's all you really have to go off when you're being introduced to a suitor in a Muslim community. So my family initially went very religious, but as I got more religious, they got more religious. And they started looking for like religious people for me to get married to. Now, spoiler alert, I'm from Bangladesh, I'm Bengali, and Bangladeshis only really get married to Bangladeshis. It's very rare that Bangladeshis get married to like a different race. And even then, it's like even more rare for them to get married to like a white person or a black person. And it's very racist in my opinion, and I'm sure in most people's opinion. But Bangladeshis only get married to Bangladeshis. So they were looking for religious Bangladeshis, which I wouldn't say are in high demand. We were one of the few who were very, very religious, and we were looking for that same level of religiosity. So I think I was first proposed to when I was about 15 or 16. I would say like 15. And usually it was one of my aunts on my father's side who was constantly arranging these marriages and finding these people who to get me married to. And her whole thing was like, listen, in a religious Muslim family, you don't have too much to celebrate, okay? You have 2 Eids in a year, you have weddings, and you have births. That's it. That's all you celebrate. You don't really celebrate any of like the cool occasions that you have in the rest of the year, like birthdays and Valentine's Day and St. Patrick's Day and Easter. Like, we don't have an event coming every 5 days for us to celebrate. So for them, it's like, oh, someone's getting married? Like, they go all out. So she was really obsessed, I think, with getting me married from a very young age. A, because my father was like, yeah, she's ready. And B, because they didn't have too many things to celebrate and they just wanted things to celebrate. Which will lead me into another conversation very soon, but I will get over it and I will defer it to another time. And 3, because I wasn't unwilling, because I thought it was a good thing for me to get married young, because I couldn't have a boyfriend, and honestly I was beginning to feel very lonely. And also there was that whole like freedom thing still in the back of my mind, like as soon as I get married I can leave this house, I can leave all my siblings, of which I have 5. I can leave all my siblings and I can like have my own life. And what was weird about the first like initial proposal, also 4th point, I'm the oldest granddaughter on my father's side, so they really wanted to have like a celebration. So what was weird about that first proposal, I don't remember his name. I think it began with a H, so I'm just gonna call him Hamza. I think his name was Hamza. It doesn't really matter. But that first proposal, I was about 15 and he was like 26. And it was really weird looking back. Like, at the time I was really excited. I'd gotten like a new abaya, which is just a black bag, and like a pink headscarf, and I felt so bad because you weren't supposed to wear bright colours in my family outside. But I had like adorned myself, or what, it's really fucking stupid. But it was really weird because he was so much older than me. He was like a full-blown adult and I was still a child. And he was kind of sitting there asking me about my interests, and I was trying really hard to impress him with my knowledge and all the things that I read and like how religious I am. And he said no. Apparently he had a dream and it was a no. So an easy way of getting out of an arranged marriage is actually saying that you had a dream, like a terrible dream about this person, and they are the worst person you could possibly marry. That is a good way of getting out of arranged marriages. I've gotten out of a lot of them in that way, but I wasn't the one to refuse that arranged marriage. He was. I had a few after that, but when I turned about 18, my mother got really, really ill. My mother got really, really ill, and she passed away in 2013. So after that, my priorities kind of changed because I was looking after all of my siblings, and I had grown attached to my youngest ones. So I didn't want to leave my house anymore. I had no need to. I felt responsible for them. So these proposals kept coming in, and I would always find reasons to refuse them, because if I didn't have a reason, they're like, well, why don't you want to marry him? And I would be like, because I don't want to get married. But that's not a good enough reason in my family. I'm not saying it's not a good enough reason in Islam, but it wasn't a good enough reason in my family. In terms of ways that I would reject things with like a clever reason, I would find like little things to go off. Like in our culture, if you wanted to marry someone, you would write up a resume or a CV, and it's like, I know other cultures don't do this, and a lot of people find it very weird, but we write up like a resume, and it would have, because we're all Bengali, it would have like our grandparents' names, what village we like my grandparents are from, our father's names, things that we've achieved, so like school grades, what we do for work, and I was unemployed. Things we like to do and all that. Like, it was like, I don't know, it's weird. It was like applying for a husband. It's fucking weird. But I would look at these resumes and I would be like, I need to think about this. And if I really couldn't think of anything, I would use that dream excuse. But as I became less religious, like after I left my dad's house, that became like less of a reasonable excuse because they knew I wasn't praying. You have to pray to get that dream, by the way. I've forgotten what it's called, but you have to pray to get that dream. And I never actually got any any revelations or dreams, so but I would pick on like job security, what they do for a living. So if somebody worked in security, for example, I'd be like, that's not a stable job, I don't want to live with them. And things like that. I would say that he's not really that handsome, I'm not into him. And that apparently is reason. So, like anything like very surface level, like very, very subjective, is go for it. If it's like his qualifications and he's like a doctor and you say you don't like that, that's not going to fly, because Asians love doctors. Bengalis especially love doctors, so that's not going to fly. But if you pick on like, oh, he has a really weird mole that I don't think I can get over, or like I spoke to him and I don't like his voice, like go for things like that. Those things work. But in terms of like my breaking point for arranged marriages, there was this one arranged marriage whom the same aunt had arranged, and this was a guy, I don't remember how old I was. I think I was about like 19 or 20. But it was in the year of 2014 that I met him, and we can't be left alone to talk to anyone while we're getting an arranged marriage, while we're deciding who we're going to spend the rest of our lives with. So there were people in the room. There was my aunt, and I think my grandmother who was there, who doesn't understand a word of English, so I don't know why she was there. But it was my aunt, my grandmother, and him opposite me. And he was like really weird. Like, for some reason my family loved him, and I think it's more because of the relationship his mom and my aunt had, and that's why she really wanted me to get married to him. But whatever. But I remember talking to him, and one of the things that really, like, I took away from that conversation was that he said, I will never leave my parents' house. And I was like, what? And I think he has like 3 other siblings. He has like 2, I think he either has like 2, no, he has 3 sisters. That was it. He had 3 sisters, and they were all living at home. And I was like, wait, you want to live in your parents' house where all 3 of your sisters live? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, why? And he said, why would I ever leave a place where I can reap so much reward for my afterlife? And to explain that, in Islam, it's like looking after your parents and obeying them is like a really big thing, and disobeying them is also like a really big sin. So that's what he was going off. And I was like, okay, what do you do for work? And he was like, I'm a graphic designer. I was like, okay, I get it. Initially I was still in my dad's house, so I was looking for an out at that point. Like, I really just wanted to leave my dad's house because it was becoming unbearable for me. My dad was very abusive. My brother, who was just shy of 2 years younger than me, he was also very abusive, so I just wanted to leave that situation. But then and I also only met the guy that one time. I met his mum on the same day, and I think on like one other occasion, and she gave me basically like hush money. She gave me like £150, which was stolen by my brother, so I never got to see any of it. But, and also after, this is like a little tangent, but after he stole that money, literally no one did anything about it. Like, I told everyone that happened, and literally no one did anything about it. He got a slap on the wrist, he cried a little bit because he was upset, and then he got let off. Like, but anyways, so I never actually saw the guy another time. My dad met him a few times after, like, it was agreed that we were going to get married. And I think he, like, met me in December of 2014. So I had, and like the marriage was like supposed to be in the next year, but we hadn't decided a date. And I had said to my aunt that I don't want you to finalize anything. I want to meet this person another time. She was like, okay. But after that, within like a few months, like I gave it time to sink in, and in February of 2015, I decided I didn't want to get married to that person. So my aunt, whom had arranged the marriage, I had called her and said that I don't want to get married to this person. And she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm absolutely sure. He was saying really weird stuff about how I can take my siblings over to his house and raise them there. And I was like, first of all, it's not your house. Second of all, I know Bengali men. I know my dad. I know every man in my family very, very well. That is not something that happens, and I'm not willing to risk that. Also, I was very depressed at the time. I was extremely depressed. Like, I thought I was schizophrenic. Like, my hygiene levels were to the floor. I wouldn't eat. I couldn't sleep very well. I was in pure survival mode all the time. Like, I can make a whole other video about that if you want to, but I had become like this really scared animal, and my depression was really like at its peak at that time. So I had called her and told her all those reasons that I can't get married, because I don't like what he said to me. I don't think is genuine, that I was severely depressed, and also I have a responsibility to my siblings. I want to keep looking after my siblings because I know my dad and he's not going to look after them. And she was like sort of shifting her feet about it, and she was like, I don't want to break relations with the mother-in-law. And I was like, look, I don't care what relationships. I didn't actually say this to her because I had a thing where my like throat would lock up if I ever spoke back to anyone. But in my head I was like, I don't care what relationships you have to break. I don't care. I don't want to get married to this person. And I made my decision then and there. And she kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And that's like, when I said I would talk about force, not all force is physical. A lot of force is psychological. A lot of force is like emotional blackmailing. A lot of force is like, don't you want to leave your dad's house? Don't you want to like live your own life, have your own kids? And at that time, I didn't want any more kids. As far as I was concerned, I had my kids. You know, I didn't want any more. And she would always be like, oh, having your own is different. And I was like, no, these are my kids. I'm going to look after them. And she would say how, oh, they're not going to be too happy about it. You know, they already paid all this money. And I was like, I never asked for money. I never asked for charity. I never demanded anything. Also, the money that she gave me apparently wasn't even the dowry. Like, the dowry was a separate thing that he was going to give me. But that's neither here nor there. But she was very begrudging about breaking the marriage, the nikah. So well, it wasn't even really like a nikah. It was like an agreement. But technically, we both agreed, so it technically would be a nikah. There were witnesses and everything. But there was no signed paper. We had not agreed to be married. We just liked each other at the time. And I had said that I don't want to do it. I had completely said that I don't want to do it. I had said very clearly, and I will continue to say, because it literally, I said that I don't want to do it. But anyway, after all of that, in the August of 2015, of course, I left my dad's house. I reported my dad for physical abuse, and I stayed in a shelter for a few days, and I left my dad's house, and I was living with family. And all these things came out about how I was sleeping around, and I had a boyfriend that I was going to run over to, which I didn't, by the way. I didn't. I had male friends who they suspected were boyfriends, because I had multiple of them. But whatever. But that was a suspicion. And then I remember back then, I had a lot of people online who supported me and really praised me for my decision to leave my dad's house, which was an extremely abusive situation. I don't give a fuck who you are. If you are going to sit there and tell me, oh, you would disobeyed your dad because you got publicity or whatever, fuck you, I hate you, leave right now. But there are a lot of people who gave me a lot of emotional support and really pulled me towards leaving an abusive situation. But I remember I had made a video for YouTube, which is currently no longer there because I was forced to delete it. I had made a video thanking all those people by name, and just telling them how appreciative I was, and they took that as what is your husband gonna think? And I was like, what husband? And they were like, 200 people, and I didn't check the views, so I don't know how accurate this is, but 200 people had seen that video. He could have been one of them. Da, 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 da. So I had to take down the video because everybody was jumping down my fucking throat about it, and I didn't want to hear it. But they were like, oh, that nobody's ever gonna marry you. You're never gonna find love. People came up to me saying, you can't find a husband. You're never gonna find a husband. Don't tell anyone that your dad abused you and you reported him, because they're never gonna marry you. Listen to me. True life advice. If there are people out there who will not date you or marry you or whatever the fuck you choose to do with your life, if you choose to have an arranged marriage, if that is your choice, I respect that fully. I'm not here to take that away from you. If you want to do that for real without any outside influence, I am happy to say go for it. But if there is anyone out there in this world who is going to refuse to marry you because you reported someone who abused you, take that as a fucking blessing, here and now. Take it as a blessing. No man alive, no person alive, but no man alive is allowed to touch you with harm for anything that you do. For anything. Especially not for anything you say. And if a man is gonna reject you, or reject your advances, or stop dating you, or refuse to marry you, because you reported someone in your family who is abusive, that person, take it as a blessing that they're not accepting you. because that is fucked. That is a fucked up mentality. And I was told that so many times. You reported your dad, that's why you're never going to get married, because nobody's ever going to trust you. Why would I want someone who is going to abuse me and I can't report them? Why would I want that? Why would I want that situation ever again? Is my thought. But I know that a lot of Asian girls go through like this, maybe not exactly the same process. Maybe they're not as like obsessed with getting married. I was. I don't know if that's like a shared experience. It might just be me and me being batshit insane. But I know that the whole arranged marriage, forced marriage thing is like a really big Asian thing. I know a lot of Desi girls and Bangladeshi, Pakistani, Indian, you know, even maybe some like Arab girls go through this thing where they're like pushed to get married to this one person. Please don't do it. Please don't do it if you don't want to do it. And of course there are charities and organizations that will stop any kind of forced marriage. Like me, as someone who works in schools and in education, we are trained to spot people who are being moved out of the country to get married and be never seen again. You know, there are organizations out there who can help you if you're in this situation. Please do seek out help, and trust me, the greatest decision I ever made in my life, the greatest decision, even though it caused me so much like heartache and trauma and pain, the greatest decision I ever made in my life is to trust the police to do their job. That is it. And if you're in situations like this, like, I'm getting emotional and I shouldn't be, but if you're in situations like this, please do take them seriously, and please believe that there are people out there who will help you. That got dramatic really quickly, but that is my story. I hope that I taught you something. I hope that you took something away from this. If not that, I hope I entertained you. I hope I put something into the world. And if you're my family, thanks for putting me through all that shit. It's made me a very hard bitch. If you're also my family, please never ever do this ever again to anyone else ever. Please, 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 please sort your shit out. Stop driving this cycle of like fucking get married, have babies, get married, have babies, get married, have babies. We're over it. The 21st century is not here for it, and we don't want it anymore. No one wants it anymore. Everyone wants to choose their own partner, and I know that that may not have been extended to you, but that is not reason enough for you to pressure others to do the same. Thank you for listening. I know the beginning of this video was very tangential and I was kind of talking about everything, but I hope you enjoyed the video, and I know I've already said that. Norma Jean, if you're out there, love you, and I hope everything is okay with you, and I hope that nobody's pressuring you into things like this. But I will see you in the next one. Hopefully nobody gets my account suspended. Just a few additional minor things and I will leave, I promise. I think I found a channel slogan. If anyone's out there who does like banners and like intros and things like that, like, I'm not very talented in that area. I like sketching, but that's as much as I can do. If you want some sketches to get like the baseline of what I want, I'd be happy to provide those. But if there's anyone out there who wants to do that, also anyone who wants to do fan art, I'm happy to share that. I can put that in post. And last thing, I am starting a tweet series on Twitter about judgmental posts about ex-Muslims. If you want to share those with me, go for it, and I will rate your judgment. Well, judgment that other people give you. Because I feel like that is very well deserved. I know it's cringe, but that's what I want to do. Thank you again for being here, and I will see you in the next video.